Nigeria's unchecked population growth over decades has contributed to the crisis of unemployment and poverty. The dramatic growth of uneducated and unskilled youth in an already stressed and unproductive economic environment has negative implications for both economy and security. This is already evident in some parts of the country. The population crisis has gone on for too long because of a lack of political will to address it, flowing from sensitivities around culture, religion, and politics. Those were not my words, those were the exact words of Mr. Kingsley Moghalu, who is a former deputy CBN governor, while giving a speech on the way forward for Nigeria at a recent event. We will take a look at all the sides of population idea as recommended. Welcome to Market Square. My name is Oluwakalubia, and I'm excited to have you join me every time on this show. No doubt, we are the most populous country in Africa with over 222 million people. This population is growing at an exponential rate, but harnessing the potential of the youth is possible if the right measures are taken. Otherwise, the country's problem could grow even worse. UNICEF has it that there are more than 65 million people in Nigeria. Remember, I mentioned that we are over 222 million people in Nigeria alive today. And UNICEF has told us that there are over 65 million people in Nigeria that are between the ages of 10 and 24. The growth rate is around 2.4%, which is an additional 5 million people in the population pool each year. Nigeria's fertility rate stands at 5.1 child per woman, compared with the global rate of 2.4 births per woman. According to UN estimates, Nigeria's population will double from 200 million to more than 401 million people by year 2050. If this trend isn't stopped, it will even exceed 728 million people by year 2100. Nigeria's difficulty, which range from acute poverty to political instability, will increase if population growth remains out of control. Now, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, Nigeria's unemployment rate grew in the third quarter of 2023 to 5.0%. Accurate census data is lacking, as the last time we had census in Nigeria was 2006, but the country has a high population growth rate of around 2.4%, which is sustained by high fertility at about 5.2 children per woman, compared with 3.6 in Ghana, 3.3 in Kenya. Most of these births are unplanned, unwanted, and burdensome to the mothers in many cases. Most of these unwanted pregnancies are from unmarried adolescents and young people. The consequences are huge in terms of unsafe abortion, poor maternal and health outcomes. The overall quality of life for the population is of concern. There are high levels of poverty, unemployment, and insecurity of food, lives, and property. 92% of the world's population is in extreme poverty. And extreme poverty, as touching Nigeria, is said to have a threshold of around $1 per day. I think it's now even $2 per day. It means that a person who cannot afford to spend $2 per day is poor. I have a guest on the show, but before I introduce my guest, let's do the numbers. It was all green yesterday, the 13th of March 2024, at the NGX All Share Index advanced by 0.47% to close at 104.731 basis. And compared to the previous day, which was around 103,424.44 points. The market capitalization also recorded a gain of 273.2 billion naira. Transcorp had the highest volume contribution of 11.9%. Nesto had the highest volume contribution of 16.50%. Sectors that did well yesterday did better than others yesterday on the NGX market. You had the banking sector, the insurance sector, and the food and beverages sector. Now to the FX market. There was an appreciation of Naira on the Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange market with an advancement of 0.55% as $1 exchanged for 1,603 Naira. But on the Bureau de change market, Naira depreciated by 0.21% as $1 exchanged for 1,605 Naira. So joining me on the show today to discuss about the population idea by the former deputy governor of Central Bank of Nigeria is an environmental consultant by name Mr. Henry Olonimoyo. Welcome, Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Pelumi. Nice to speak to you after a long time.
All right. Now, the question I want to start with. Recently, we had the former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria recommending the way forward for Nigeria. And something he mentioned in that meeting was that we should watch out, we should look out for a way of reducing our population. But to start with, I'd like to start by saying that we have over 200 million people in Nigeria alive at the moment, and it's not been pretty easy for many people to survive. So I want to ask you, what do you think has contributed to the population boom we are presently experiencing?
Yes, thank you very much. I don't like to when we discuss about the population of this country, I often don't like to discuss it from the point of a problem, because there's a reason why Nigeria is the most populous black nation on earth. There are countries like that by act of divine providence, they just find out that they have the numbers. I mean, if you ask for countries today that are leading the world in population, like China, like India, I don't think there's any particular explanation they can give for why they are the most populous in the world, other than by the act of divine providence, they are populous. The same thing also can be attributed to Nigeria. Why Nigeria is probably one of the leading in terms of population in Africa, probably if not even the most populous in Africa already. So, and America is predicting that by 2050, Nigeria will overtake its population. Now, where government needs to come in, and I know later in this interview we'll refer to it, where I think government should now come in is how to manage the population already. So India now has 1.1 billion. They are managing it also so that it doesn't skyrocket beyond what they can manage. China has its own already, close to 2 billion. They are managing it as they should manage it. But I don't think there's any management that will all of a sudden crash the population of a nation significantly lower than it presently is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, recently, if you have been very conversant with the conversation around the fact that we are in a country where you have about 20 million Nigerians out of school. And sometimes you would say that population is not an issue, but when you have more persons out of school than you should have, then it begins to beg the question, are we really doing the right thing by allowing people to procreate as much as they have? And then that leads to the next question, which is, we know that there are implications to having population boom, especially when if your country is situated within this continent. You understand that there are implications to having too many persons alive within your geographical space. I'm going to ask you, what do you think are the possible implications of having a population explosion and observing over the years, as that has happened over the years? What do you think that having this population explosion has cost us as a people?
Yes, thank you. So let me start from the very beginning. Now, our population, for me, is enough advantage for us when it comes to marketing, business, and economy. There are brands and industries. I'm talking of foreign direct investments that want to come into your country, and they want to understand the market value. They want to know how many people will be able to buy their products, how many people will their products be interacting with. And when you tell them that now we are putting our population to about 200 million people, every business wants to operate in that kind of economy where you have 200 million people. If all the other conditions that favor businesses are in place, they want to operate there. Now, why you have out of school children? I don't think it's a population problem. I believe very strongly it is largely neglect of government, lack of planning from government, embezzlement and corruption and what have you. I also believe that there was a deliberate system put in place by some of the oligarchy in the north to keep some of these people uneducated, impoverished, and also harm them with religion. And that is part of what we are battling with today in terms of terrorism and the other extremism that comes with religion. Again, I cannot begin to tell you again how much advantage, how much opportunities Nigeria has gotten because of its population in terms of aid, loans and grants that it has gotten. The way the monetary agencies will give a grant to a country that is not up to Ondo State in population is not the same amount of grant they will give to a country that is as large as ours. So if we are enjoying the advantage on one hand, let's not come out and now point to the number of out of school children as a disadvantage. It's not a disadvantage. It's just because we have refused to manage it properly. America is how many millions? Maybe probably 250, 300 million people. And many people tomorrow will still want to become American citizens. And America is not shouting, and they don't have the amount of out of school children that Nigeria is having. So I think that it's a problem of collapse of governance, breakdown of governance, not because there's a population explosion. Then I don't know if I could get the last round of question you asked.
Well, I think you have spoken positively about our population explosion, saying that it shouldn't be something negative because we've also gotten grants and gotten some benefits because of our number. But again, the other question that will come to mind immediately is to say that what are the opportunities that comes with having this population, and how come we have not taken advantage of our size? How come we've not taken advantage of this number? Over 200 million people are alive, the largest country in Africa. We should be taking advantage of this, but we are not. What do you think is the reason for this?
Yes, thank you very much. You take a very good look at China. Today, China is not just the economic powerhouse that it is today. In fact, some people will tell you that China has probably overtaken America as the leading economic powerhouse of the world. Because today, China is exporting expertise to other countries. One, check Nigeria, yeah? There are a lot of Chinese experts in the country. Check some other African countries also. You have China there. You have China everywhere. Today, if you look at some of the smartphones that we are using today, they are mass produced in China. That's the truth. Even though they are not from China, but they are mass produced in China. One of the business executives of of one of these smartphones I saw some of one of his interviews some years back, and he said people say that China's labor is cheap. He said labor is not cheap in China. He said for him, if you want to maybe make maybe 10 million copies of a particular product, and you give an advert in America and ask them to fill to engineers with certain competence to come, and they said they will barely fill a hall. So, but if you go to China, you have an entire multitude of crowd who have been properly equipped, who have been properly educated and skilled up to offer that quality. So tell me why any business will not want to flock to that place. So for me, I look at it, bringing it back to Nigeria. The mere fact that we are probably the most populous park nation is enough advertisement for any company. I mean, if you come to the country, you'll know that you don't have a problem with markets. You don't have a problem with labor. You don't have a problem with whether people, consumers. There are more than enough consumers. No, take a look at what Nigeria is doing now with social media. Take a look at what Nigeria is doing with social media. Today in the world, if there is a crisis somewhere, if there's something Nigerians are trending, it begins to trend worldwide. That just tells you the power, the sheer power of our numbers. And all these things we are talking about has huge effect when you talk of economy, power, influence. What more can a country wish for than this? So, but the question we should be asking ourselves is, why are we not taking enough advantage of these things? And the problem is governance. We have continually missed it when it comes to governance. And so we have today political leaders who sometimes we wish to point accusing finger at our population as reasons why things are not functioning. But I tell you, even look at the deposit of mineral resources in this land. It was as if that the creator that put this nation together, or that assigned that this place to be very populated, deliberately also provided for the kind, I mean, with gifting it with the resources that we have, also envisage that there will be that kind of population. Nigeria is rich in mineral resources also. So if you're talking about that our population is much, again, we have enough wealth to go around. The question is, how are we not having an equitable distribution of this wealth? So for me, it's purely a leadership issue. And then again, if you also look at the human resources factor, because I believe that the greatest resource any nation can have is this human resources, not even the mineral resources. I mean, we have Nigeria, we have seen people today, in spite of government underperform, we have seen people add value to themselves. Go to America and see how much exploits Nigerians are making. They're probably saying Nigeria is probably the most literate set of people in America. They will go for extra degrees and the rest. You see Nigeria dominating the entertainment sector. You see Nigeria dominating the sports sector. Go today to UK. I tell you, go today to UK, go and check the football academies of Arsenal, I mean, particularly London, Arsenal, Crystal Palace. Go and see Nigerian names there. I tell you, in the next 10, 20 years, you will just find that probably half of the national team of England will be people who are of Nigerian heritage. So this is value for a leadership that understands it. This is incredible value, such that anybody who wants to be on the lips of the world now in the coming years, you would have to ensure you find a way to penetrate and insert yourself into the social influence of Nigerians. And it's a pity that the only people who have not realized this are the people who are our leaders.
You have again you have again spoken positively about our number, as to the fact that, and it's pretty true that whatever goes viral in Nigeria goes viral in the world. And we have seen that every time there is that we have a Nigerian son somewhere doing something really wonderful, and we rally around that person, the world gets to hear about the person. I remember in 2020 when these Ikorodu boys recreated this movie like that, Extraction trailer, that the guy got to see it because we shared it everywhere. But when you but when we sit back to say that we don't have, first, let's admit that we've not had a leadership structure that has, we don't have leaders in the last couple of years that have taken pretty much our numbers seriously as to how to take advantage of the numbers that we possess. And is it all right if we say that we need to do something about our numbers, at least that the people on ground at the moment are enough? So I give you an instance of a family of 3, a man, his wife, and a son. And at this time, the man is earning, let's say, 5,000 naira. He's earning 5,000 naira every single month as salary. And that cannot really do so much for himself and his wife, himself alone. And now he's thinking of engaging in a process that leads to the birth of a new human being, that will now birth a newborn boy, and then people will come and celebrate nonetheless. But should we say that we should do something about our numbers, looking at the fact that we don't quite have the resources enough to cater for the numbers that we have even at the moment?
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I'd also like to tell you that we have enough resources, but let me leave it at that. But I also understand that even the most populous nation in the world, China, is also doing something about its population also. It was only up to recently that they relaxed the law allowing for couples to have more than one child. There was a time that China ensured that, and they legislated it, that couples will only have a child. So most of those people were products of that single child law. The country now made a law to allow them probably go ahead to have 2 children. because of trying to manage the population. I also believe that every nation also should be doing whatever it needs to do to manage its population. But again, the question is, how will a country like ours manage its population when we don't even know precisely how many people we are? We can't. We are yet to be able to conduct another census since year 2006, and we have been shifting it. We're in 2024, 18 years after. We are here to conduct a new census. We don't have statistics. Go to some of our state governors. Some of them are making plans, making budgets, and they don't have numbers to back these things up. So we have a huge problem from that angle. Again, when you have governments that are welfareists, it's easier for them to control population. So, for instance, a government can come up with a policy and say that, they would provide maybe free education for the first two children of a couple or something. Now, that way, they are sending a signal to potential parents that, see, if you don't want financial issues, just have just two, and if you have just two, government will just take over the care. Or if the government says, they are giving special incentive to those people who are able to just have two children or something like that. That way. But again, this is a government that probably is not doing much for the people. The people are trying to strive and thrive in spite of government. So again, if government now saying that they want to control our population, they say, see, come, this population in the first instance, what have you even done so far to take care of it? I mean, largely, Nigerians have been thriving and surviving in spite of government, not because government has been doing anything directly to our lives. I can paint a picture to you that where you live, there's every likelihood that the security there is being provided by the community. The transformer there is being provided by the community. Some of those roads there probably been paved by community. And so you just wonder, you can go on and discover that there's very little significance of government in the everyday life of the average Nigerian. So when that government now wakes up now and says he wants to control population, it will be like you're putting the cart before the horse. What are you taking care of in the first instance for you to say? And then you look at Nigerians already moving out of the country in their droves. That's also a bit of a way of population management, because many people now have moved out of the country. And moving out of the country again, they are still helping the country in repatriation of funds. I mean, I've forgotten the name, the economic firm is called. By the time they send monies home to their people, these monies also they collate and form some kind of economic statistics that reflects well for the country. So what are we saying again? We are still saying that the government in this regard cannot be saying that it wants to control population when the basics of things, he has not been able to do it. He can't even count us. So how do we know how much? We don't know how much officially we are as a people. Then how do you manage the population that you are not sure of?
Wow, you've just preempted me there by suggesting that the government should begin to think of ways to count the population. Because I remember before this time, I was just thinking and asking myself, when last did we even have population census in this country? And I started asking the people in that space. They've been getting paid since way back. So if you had the last one, 2006, and this is 2024, then the people there have been getting paid without doing anything. And you begin to ask, what are our leaders doing? So I think the first way to go is to have the population census happen. Before you even you want to think of minimizing how many persons give birth in a year or so. You want to be able to ensure that you have an accurate figure of the number of persons that are alive within your region. But again, some have said that education would also help, that when people are engaged, when a lady goes to school, for instance, a guy is educated, for instance, he knows the consequence of having a child when he's not ready for it. So I want you to just you could list out or speak some more as to what policies the government can do to, in a way, first, maximize the population we have at the moment. And then by doing that, then reduce the possibility of us increasing without a system enough to be able to contain our people.
Yes, thank you. So again, maximizing the population we have, I think when you see a government that wants to work and serve the people, one of the very first things on their minds will be, how do we know how many people we are budgeting for, how many people we are planning for? Part of the reason why corruption has thrived in this country is that we just claim we are making provisions for a certain number of people that we are not even sure they exist. So you hear a ministry say we are giving so amount of cash to so number of Nigerians, the poorest Nigerians. How did you know them? How did you stumble on that? What metric did you use to extract those amount of people? So you see, let's do a proper census. Let's know the amount of people we have, and let's be able to budget for them. And I'm not even talking of only the federal government alone. State governments can also do enough also. Then, if you are wondering what the people in census must have been doing since 2006, even if we had a census in 2006, I believe that by taking into cognizance the recorded birth and death in our various health centers, community health centers, it could give us a rough idea of what we have. I don't know whether these people are even doing this job of following. And by also a projection of population, I think by now we should be able to distribute the Nigerian Population Commission should be able to come out to tell us that we have an estimated number of so number of people. They should be able to tell us estimated, even without even having a census at all in the first place. But I'm not sure they have done that. Again, even globally, you have in organizations like UNICEF and the rest that have largely financed family planning methods. That's the truth. So today, because of some of this financing, couples can go into any of our health facilities, even in Nigeria today, and opt for one family planning method or the other for almost free. That's the truth. These things have been paid for by international donor agencies. And again, not just that, we from time to time we hear these jingles on radios, we hear them on television, we hear these things again and again and again and again. But again, I also say education alone is not what will control population. Because if a man is rich and he feels that he has the money, he can decide to say, I want to have 10 children because I can take care of all 10 of them. That's it. You go ask somebody who says he loves children, and because he loves children, he wants to have as many as he can. Again, I also make you see something that happened after the Biafra War. The southeastern part of the country was severely their numbers were severely reduced because of the war. There was a massacre in the southeast, and credit to this wonderful set of people, the way they picked themselves up. Come and see, and you will realize that for an average Southeasterner, you'll see that they would have at least 5 children, 6 children. Go and find out. They will have 5, 6 children, 6 children. And I feel that those things was to compensate for the loss of lives that they had. And you see, that population has recovered. I mean, if you look at voting metrics now in the country, you know that, of course, even though they call them the smallest region, but I tell you, they are already swelling in ranks already. And you will not point to that region as a region that is poor. They are not poor. But for them, they needed to increase the numbers of births so as to cover for the loss of lives that happened in the Biafran War. So education alone will not work this out. I believe that government, even at regional levels, can do much more with managing it. We're using incentives, education also, but again, more importantly, the world is already a global place now where people are your citizens and they can live elsewhere. That's the truth. So today you have China. China is in China, but Chinese are all over the world, adding value, doing one thing or the other. If some of them also operate as have been also be paraded as criminal elements also. But what it means is that China is exporting people out of his country to get involved in people's economy. Nigeria also is doing the same thing, but I think it should be much more organized than it presently is. Thank you.
Mr. Henry, thank you so much for your time. You have shared useful insights on the subject of population policy today. Thank you for joining. Appreciate your presence.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining me today on Market Square. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. My name is Oluwakwelumi Awe, and see you on the next one.